All right, folks. Hey, welcome to our July 4th edition of Cliff's Notes. Yes, you got it. And we are working on 4th of July. We're going to drop some huge value on you today. And I'm going to unpack the one tool, the ninja tool that I use and my coaching clients use to crush every listing presentation. You'll never have to struggle with asking for price reductions again. You'll never have a struggle with getting sellers to come to the right conclusion about where they should price their house, and you're going to get it all right here today. So don't go anywhere. Turn your phone on airplane mode, get out a legal pad, a couple of extra pages, because you're going to want to take notes today as I go through and unveil the really good stuff. I want to remind you guys that we usually do our podcasts on Thursdays around 1:15, and today is no exception. We're really excited to be here. It's just going to be me today. I also want to do a little PSA, a public service announcement, and that is to let you know that the Cliff Freeman Group is seeking some talent. We have a great culture, great tools, and can easily get you in position to double your production wherever it is today. And we would love to talk with you if you're cut from the right cloth, a good culture fit, and have the burning desire, that fire in the belly to succeed at the highest level. Just DM me on a private message, or you can text me. My phone number is 214-680-5403. Just give me a text, and I'd love to meet with you and chat about some mutually beneficial opportunities. So that's the Cliff Freeman Group, and we are located in the ground zero, the bullseye of growth in the DFW market, right around Prosper, Texas, and we'd love to meet you. So, all right, so let's get on without further ado. It is the 4th of July. Let me put that back up there and wish everybody a happy 4th. And now I'm going to retreat to the beach because, after all, this is a holiday. And if you can't hang at the beach, then you might as well hang as close as you can. Which, well, I guess if we got the beach, and we've got my office in Puerto Vallarta. Why don't we do the Puerto Vallarta office today? Hey, that's very cool. That's awesome. All right, so let me get right underway here and get this party started. I'm going to start out by describing, again, tell you a little bit about this tool. If you want to see the tool, you can go to www.cmakiller.com. That's www.cmakiller.com. Hey, if you're already a subscriber to Cliff's Notes, which you can obviously, we've got some great tools in there in the vault for you. You can go to getcliffsnotes.com and become a subscriber and get all kinds of benefits for doing that as well. But let me go ahead and get the show on the road here. And I want to start by sharing, if I could, let's see, which we're sharing. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so this little PowerPoint that I'm going to show you here is full of some really good information about why CMAs are no longer the tool of choice for the best realtors. And I can guarantee you what, if you ever go across a CMA, another agent using a CMA, you will absolutely tear that one apart. Let's see here. Am I sharing the right screen? I got to make double sure here. Give me just a second. I believe I've got new technology here, and man, I'm telling you, let's try this. There it is. Now I got it going on right. Okay. All right. So we've got it going on right now. This technology is over the top, and I promise you it'll up your game to the highest level. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this. Why is it that realtors generally have issues with pricing properties? Well, the problem is in the process. And if you're using a CMA that we're all taught in school, and it's kind of funny because we get 3 hours of how to do a CMA, and appraisers go to school for hours and hours and hours. And I mean, USPAP and that whole organization, I mean, they really put them through the ringer. But did you guys know that even appraisers that are fully licensed and been through all that training, like another undergraduate degree, they can still be 15% above or below the market value of a property and have what's called a defendable number? Now, a defendable number is something that they could show to an underwriter and actually have a defense for whatever number it is that they picked. So think about it. You got a house that's selling for $100,000. There's a contract on it. Somebody could come up with an appraisal for 115, and another appraiser could come back at 85. They could both be right according to this, right? So the problem is in the process. And again, using a CMA is like driving down the highway using your rear view mirror, and you can only look back. And that's what CMAs are built around. They're built around past sales. What you got to have is you got to have a process that gives you the ability to look forward, to look ahead. So what we do is we use this tool that has predictive modeling that actually helps us predict where the market's going to be in the next 90 days. So you've got to develop a strategy, and you've got to be able to use a tool that is going to be simple enough so that you can get your sellers to do the right thing every time they get on board. All right. So let's talk about how it works. Very simply, when somebody does an analysis of pricing with this tool, realtors simply go into their MLS and do a search that matches the profile, something very similar to what you would use if you were doing a CMA. The difference here, though, is that we're going to be using not just 6 months worth of data, but we're going to go back a full 2 years. And you might be saying, well, Cliff, that's crazy. You can't use 2 years worth of data and expect that you're going to have anything close to what you need to know about today's pricing. Well, so the reason why we do that is we go because we want to look at trends. And I'll talk about that some more in just a minute. But the system that we use is once you export the data, the visual pricing system, this tool actually creates the graphs that you need automatically. And then you can go in and customize them as you see fit. So what's the first graph? Well, so a lot of people who are selling their home think that they have a 100% chance of getting their house sold. Well, I can tell you that that's not true. And we're going to look at these are a little dated here, but I've got some brand new fresh data I'm going to show you in just a second here. But you can see even with this example, the odds of selling this house, according to the last 12 months of activity, are only 76%. And what's interesting about that, and you'll notice that on this graph, it even tells us that homes are selling at 1.1 per month, looking at the last 12 months of activity. And there is an absorption rate, or there is actually a supply. When we talk about absorption, we're talking about how fast can we clear that inventory out? Well, there's 3.7 months of supply of inventory available in this particular market. So this slide alone, when you sit down and show this to a seller as the first thing, it clears the air, because immediately you're going to look at that seller and say, hey, I got some bad news for you. No matter how good I am, you still face a challenge, an uphill challenge of getting your home sold. Even in a great market, it is not a layup. All right. So let's take a look at some of the other things we can talk to sellers about. This is a time to sell. This chart right here tells us what the time that it took to sell the average house in this market and what the average price of the house was. And we can go on and look at, this is another one that illustrates the buying pattern. And this tells us that most of the activity takes place between the middle of June and the end of August. So between these two slides, we now have an idea of, boy, you really want to get that house sold. You can see the houses on the left. There are more on the left that sold in less than average time than there are on the right. So you really get a sense of the importance of getting this home sold in less than the average days on the market. All right, so again, this next slide gives you a breakdown of when the activity is. A lot of neighborhoods, you'll see this, because if they're neighborhoods with families, which most of them are, you have kids in school and that sort of thing. So a lot of the consideration is around the school year, when it starts and when it ends. All right, so here's another thing. This is a scattergram. We're going to go into some more detail about this. This is actually a regression line here, that blue line that is an average of the sales prices of the recent sales here. And these are usually just like what you would see on a CMA. They're going to be within the last 6 months, and we'll talk about those a little bit more in a minute here. And oh my gosh, who is that guy? Do you know who that is? I think that, isn't that the great one? Isn't that Wayne Gretzky? I believe it is. And what is he famous for? There's something that a quote that he has that he's really famous for. And I don't know if you can raise your hand out there if you have the answer, but I bet you know what it is. And I think it's this one, right? He says, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it has been. Isn't this the case when we're looking at pricing a home? What does it matter as much what homes sold for? I mean, we're not selling into the past, we're selling into the future, right? So what's really more important is where's the market going to be and what are you selling against? You're not selling against those homes that are off the market. So, you know, you got to think about skating where the puck is going. There he is. There's old Wayne again. All right. And if he were a realtor, what would he say? He would say, I price my listings to where the market is going to be, not where it has been. All right. So let's all keep that in mind. We want to have a predictive look here. We want to look out at least 90 days into the future. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is pricing and positioning, because these are the two things that really are, you know, the two functions that an appraiser does. So it's important for us to know, and it helps us set the starting point of where we want to price the property. So, and, you know, if we're using the positioning function, we can also make some adjustments and really set the pricing strategy as needed. Now, keep in mind, we're looking at raw MLS data here. There are no stupid adjustments where you got to figure out how much a half bath is worth. You know, how much do I figure a pool is worth? You know, what's the difference if the master is upstairs or downstairs and that sort of thing. This is where a lot of agents really drop the ball. And guys and gals, let's face it. If I asked you to come up with a CMA on a property, I bet that you could find the comps to make that CMA say whatever you wanted it to. And therein lies much of the problem, because a lot of agents are doing that to buy listings. Well, let's just delegitimize, let's take the get gun right out of their hand here and realize that we're using raw MLS data. Okay, so the positioning function here is referred to, we talk about absorption rate or absorption analysis. And so you've got to ask yourself, how many homes are going to sell in a respective price range in a defined period? And so that's what we use this absorption rate for. And that is key. If changes in the absorption rate indicate trends as to which way the market is going. If you see the absorption rate increasing, in other words, we've always said, we've been taught that anything less than 6 months of inventory, or the absorption rate, that suggests there's less than 6 months on the market, that means what? That means that it tends to be a seller's market. In other words, homes are selling fast. If homes are on the market for a long time and the absorption rate, if there's more inventory on the market than can be sold in 6 months, then we say that's the opposite of a seller's market. That becomes a buyer's market. Okay, so buyers look for markets where the absorption rate is above 6 months. That's when it becomes turns in their favor. All right, so what we've got to also figure out here is comparing your home to others based on the price, the size, the location, features, and conditions. Now, again, as I said before, we're selling against homes that are active on the market. So when you sit down with your seller and you present this data to them, you've got to be able to look at the houses that are currently on the market and determine which ones are congruent and what's the difference. How does your house, the house that we're trying to get sold here, how does it compare with these other houses on the market? Because we want to position your home so that if we know that there are going to be 3 homes that sell in the next 30 days, we want your home to be one of the first ones that goes. It's got to be in that group, right? Otherwise, we're going to sit on the market and then we've got all kinds of issues that are coming up. All right. So one of the tools that we look at in order to talk about this is something called the pond. And the goal here, if you can see this, is to get from the left side of the pond over to the right side of the pond. Now, the pond is nothing more than a tool that we use to illustrate what happens to houses when they don't get sold in the time that they need to. And if you look at the bottom of the pond here, you can see that there is a stagnant mass, okay? We call it a stagnant mass because those houses are not being, they're being shown, but they don't have offers. And I can tell you that we all know that as this continues and you start to have houses that are on the market and fail to sell, they really start, you run into all kinds of problems. So you want to get your house all the way across this pond within a reasonable amount of time. So what we know is that if we just look at this pond, we can tell from these projections that there are 5 projected listings that will be coming on in the next 90 days. This says that there are 5 that are currently under contract, and note here that the 5 properties that are under contract are part of the 6 sales that will occur in the next 90 days. And that's what's going to happen. There are going to be 6 that sell. So that only leaves 1 new sale. So when you look at it from that standpoint, that's a pretty tough road to hoe there. All right. So let's take a look at what happens then. So how do we figure out how to price things and how to position them? Well, look, this is another graph that comes with the tool. And this is a scattergram. And what this tells us is, this tells us where we're looking at pendings and actives right now. Now you can see all the green triangles represent actives, and all of the yellow diamonds represent pendings, and that red circle that's up there represents the subject property where they're thinking about pricing it, where perhaps the seller wants to price it. Now, what do you notice about this? Is there anything that you notice as a pattern? It's kind of hard to see here, but let me see if I can help you with this. All right. If you look at this, it seems like for whatever reason, most of the homes under contract are priced just below 480. And 480 is kind of right down here. You can see there's 4 pendings right down there. And there's a 550. And we looked at that, and what we figured out when we looked that one up is it was a new build, okay? So that explains the difference in the price between that house and the 4 down below. So if you're selling a pre-owned home, and this is a pre-owned home that we're looking at selling here, what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that we're going to need to be somewhere down there in that area, right? Don't you agree? I mean, we know that all of the pre-owned homes that are selling below 480. And unless it's a new build, there's nothing that is under contract here right now that is up there. And the 550 is a new build. So that's what that is what the value is in this. Now, what I'm going to do is, if you like what you've seen so far, hang on, because I'm going to take you into a live setup right now where I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to show you on a house that I'm working on right now how I use this. But if you're interested and you want some more information, Tim, the gentleman that created this system, has a great book on Amazon called Visual Pricing for Real Estate. It's cheap, $10 I think it is, or something. It's worth $1,000 because it's going to help you learn how to change the way that you present this whole thing about pricing and positioning to sellers. So look for that book on Amazon. And if you'd like to subscribe to the tool, again, you can get it at www.cmakiller.com. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to take us a little different direction here. I'm going to go into my MLS, and we're going to change screens here so that I can show you. These are some comps that I pulled up. If you'd like to call them, you're looking at this is Netris. This is the North Texas Real Estate Information Systems, and what I've done is I've got a house that is in it's a subdivision that was actually built by D.R. Horton back about 2007, and it was built in Frisco, Texas. And if you guys know about Frisco, you know that the $1 billion mile is there, sort of by Stonebrook, and right across from where this is here. Let me see if I can show you on a map here a little bit about where this is. So this is Frisco, Texas, and these townhomes are right in here. For those of you who don't know about Frisco, there's a soccer stadium up here where FC Dallas plays. This is Legacy West down here. You've got Shops of Legacy down south of 121. This is a great area. Just seeing some tremendous price appreciation, lots of sales, lots of investment in here. Everything is moving north. There's now the $5 billion mile that they're calling the Platinum corridor up just north of here toward Prosper, where I live, where the PGA of America, they bought 2,500 acres and they're putting in, I think it's either 2 golf courses or 27 holes. They're going to have the PGA there. So the PGA is relocating from Florida. There's going to be a huge development. The same guys that did Legacy, Shops of Legacy and Legacy West. Anyway, great area here. But what I've done is I've gone back and I've pulled up, you'll see here, I pulled up actives, current actives, the cancels, everything back at least 2 years. And again, the reason why I did that is because we're going to be looking at trends over the last 2-year period, as opposed to, we're not using that for pricing, and I'll show you how. So that's how we came up with this. These are townhomes in this, and I've just chosen those units that are in the Bella Casa subdivision there, and so that's going to exclude everything else. Again, so the results are here. There's 106. What I would do is now I'm going to take these and I'm going to prepare to export these into the CMA killer, into Focus First. And I do that. It's very simple to do. You just you'll check all these and then go check the next 6, and you would click export. And I've got this set up where we just go in and create a little special, its own sort of report here. We export them, and when we do, then we come up with here to the tool, and we would click start here. And what's going to happen is I just go to my to downloads, and let's see, I'll just show you. Usually they go right in here, and then you'll see a Focus First text right here. It is. So I would click that. Now I've already done it, so I'm not going to import them again, but that's how you would do it. I'm going to go ahead and dive right into what happens. So once we import them, we get the list here. Now this is a list of all 106, I believe it was, of those houses. And so now that we've got these, we want to create a graph, and it's called a scattergram, and it's very simple. We just go in and we're going to choose, I'm going to sort these rather by the most recent sold, withdrawn, or expired date, and I'm going to take the last 6 months. So this is where we're talking about using the data within the last 6 months so that we can create that sort of pricing discovery that we're going to do. Everything else with regard to trends and so forth is 2 years. This particular tool, this particular part of the tool is going to use the last 6 months. And then once we've selected, and you see the X's here, the last 6 months of the solds, withdrawn, expireds, cancels, and so forth, then we're going to go pick up the current ones that are either under contract or active on the market. And I've got those selected over here. Okay, once I've done that, then through the magic of the tool, I push a couple of buttons, and lo and behold, I'm able to produce this graph right here. So what we see here is this, again, is a graph of all of the actives on the market right now in the green triangles. All of the ones that are the yellow diagonals, the diamonds, those are pendings. Properties sold are the blue dots, and then expireds are the red squares. Now, this line, once again, is called a regression line. And this is simply an average, a weighted average here of the solds that have taken place in the last 6 months. So do you see how much easier it is to help identify where your seller needs to be according to where the properties are sold? Now, we'll need to do a little bit more work here. We'll need to go in and figure out, as I said, you want to know what the actives are, and you want to know why certain properties sold for more than others. All right, well, the way you do that is you just go back in and you look at the difference. Okay, if this is the average, then, for example, here are 2 houses, and this is square feet on the bottom and price on the y-axis. But these houses are 2 identical floor plans, right? But you notice that one is on the market for $327, and this one actually sold for $292.55. Well, they're both 1,710 square feet. Once you do your discovery on this, what you'll find is that this home here, the seller had invested an additional $30,000 in updating and upgrading the home. And so condition-wise, this house, that's what justifies the higher price here. So you can see, and these are the discovery types of questions that you're going to ask your seller. You're going to say, look, what's the difference between your house and this house that's sold or is under contract here? And it allows the seller to come to the right conclusion. I mean, this is almost as easy as pin the tail on the donkey without a blindfold. I mean, as long as you can have them understand that blue line, they have to have a reason to be above or below that blue line, then that really helps the seller understand how they're positioned. And so you want to position yourself against the houses that are on the market, the ones that with the, the green triangles. These are the ones that you're going to have to sell against. All right, so let me stop there just for a minute. I know that's a lot going on, a lot to take in. But the next thing that I want to do is I want to go back and show you some of the other slides that we talked about. Now, if you remember, before we got to Wayne Gretzky, we were talking about that probably one of the single most important slides that you can show a seller. And by the way, a buyer as well. I use this tool all the time to help us make offers on houses. I train agents all the time how important it is to be able to take this, and then you can send this to a listing agent. Like if you're gonna make a justifiable lowball offer on a house, you want to be able to back it up. And this is what we do. We send this data over to them. All right. So looking at this graph here, this tells it all. Now, so we look at the last 3 months of activity. That's the first graph here. And then we go back and look at the last 6 months and then the last 12 months, because we're trying to pick up trends here. What we're trying to do is see what's changing in the market. Now, if you look at this, you'll notice in the last 12 months, there was 12 months of supply available, and homes were just selling at 0.9, less than a home a month. However, the odds of selling your home were still at 33%. Now, 6 months later, and in the last 6 months of activity, we noticed that home sales have picked up. Now, if you think about it, this is some of the seasonality that we need to look at and need to address. This is July 4th. Starting about 3 months ago, things really picked up in this market. Homes were selling at a much faster clip at 2.3 per month, and that reduced the absorption rate down to 4.7 months of supply available. So how do you get those numbers? It's real simple. Ignore the yellow bar here. This is only used just to show you how many houses are under contract right now. We can't use them because we don't know what they sell for. But there are 5 currently on the market, and there are 3 that expired or were canceled or withdrawn, and there were 7 here that sold. So what we know is that out of, there's how many houses here? We know that a third of the houses, there's 11 plus 10 is 21 houses. We know that 7 of those were able to sell, okay, in that period of time. And so that tells us that the odds of selling was 33%. Now, again, this slide here is one of your best tools for getting your seller to get a real dose of the market. This is reality. This is what happens in the marketplace. It's not like the stock market where you put your shares up. I mean, if it's overpriced, they ain't going to sell either. But one thing for sure is that there are houses that do not sell, even in a market as good as we're in right now. Okay, all right, let's take a step and look at the next slide here. This is the current days time to sell. So this is what we see here, and this information I just pulled this today. So the average days before a home sold right now is 145 days. Now think about that. That's a long time. But we just came out of the winter, so houses that are selling now have been on the market for a good while. Some of these houses have been on the market probably, well, this one 150 days, this one 250 days. So this is This is all the houses that have sold in 2019. This is how long it took them to sell. Okay. Now, again, remember, we're moving into the summer, which is a better part of the market. If we look at 2018 as a whole, this takes the whole year into account, we see that the average was 86 days. Now, something else I want you guys to notice here is this. Look at the average sales price this year, which is 288,132 in this neighborhood, versus the average sales price in 2018. It's 302,156. Okay, there's several things that could explain that, but what you have to understand is that this white hot market that we've been in for the last 5 years here, things are changing, and we're actually at an inflection point. And this really helps illustrate the point to your buyers. Okay, price appreciation has slowed dramatically here in this area. It used to be we'd be up 10% a year, and it's nowhere near that right now. Okay, all right, so what's next? Well, the buying pattern. Now, again, we know, I'll look at the 18 first here. We know from history that summer has generally been the best time to sell houses in this neighborhood. And that's just spelled out in everything that we're seeing right now, that summertime is the hot market for these houses. Okay, and these are townhouses. All right, so back to things. Pricing. All right, so this is the MLS data. This is how we determine, again, work with that seller, get them to understand where they need to price the home. So the other huge thing that we want to talk about is positioning. This is the last part of this piece here. All right, so for positioning, as I said, we are selling against the properties that are currently on the market. So we have to look at the active data. If I were going to a listing presentation on this house, I would take a printout, not necessarily the full printout, but I want to be able to pick out and discern what are the differences between these houses that are on the market today and the house that I need to sell, or if I'm working with buyers, the house that I want to buy. In other words, where do I want to be able to position my offer? They may have priced it wrong, but I've got to figure out what it is specifically about that house. Now, again, this is where it becomes a little bit more art than science, because as we all know, it's very difficult sometimes to come up with proper adjustments. In our case, these are all townhouses, so we have very little. The lots are similar. Occasionally you'll get an end cap that has a yard and that type of thing, but it's pretty clear here. You can see it's, really a lot of it's based on square feet. So looking at how long some of these houses have been on the market, what we know is that the longer they've been on the market, and I'll show you here in the pond, this house has been on the market 174 days. I can promise you that's a tough, it's under contract, but that was a tough sell. It's had several price reductions, same as this one here that's been on the market for 147 days. But I want to show you how these are represented here in the pond. Okay, so you see here that there have been 8 new properties for sale in the last 90 days, and 6 of those are currently under contract. So let me go back to the active data here. I'm going to sort on status, and what we see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are under contract. Okay, 6 under contract. The system has figured out there were 8 of them that came on active in the last 90 days. There were also 7 that sold. All right. So currently right now there are 5 properties available for sale. Let's go back. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now look how this works. This is really cool. So the system is going to predict how many of those properties are going to move over here to the right. Well, we know there's currently already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 under contract, and there were 7 sold in the last 90 days. So this is the past. I'm sorry, this is the past we're looking at here. This is not the projected. What I'm going to show you now, all right, bear with me here. This is the activity from April to July, but let's look at the projected pond. This is where we get the information about what does the predictive modeling tell us. This is where the system looks at the data and says, here's what we see happening in the next 6 months. Now, this will really shake you up. If you pay attention here, you're going to see it's going to be tough to get anything sold here, There's 3 new listings that are projected to come on in the next 90 days. Again, all this analysis is done by the system. We know that there are 6 properties currently under contract, okay? And then these other ones, there's 5 available for sale, but they're really not getting, they're not getting offers. A lot of them have been on the market for a long time. The system is only projecting, based on the current market absorption, that a total of 6 will be sold in the next 90 days. Well, what's that telling us? What it's telling us is that there will be 0 new sales in the next 90 days. 0. So for those houses at this point that are still on the market here, the system is predicting that they will still be on the market 90 days from now. Wow. Now, if I know that as a buyer going in here, I've got leverage. And if I can articulate this to the listing agent, who can then talk with their seller about it, I'm going to be in a lot better position to go in and make an offer that's a lot more competitive. So think about this. Now, if I'm a seller, what is that telling me about, if I'm going to be listing my house, what does that tell me about where these houses here are priced? And it tells me that they're probably going to be looking at some price reductions, okay? These have all been on the market a good while. All right, so that's how the pond works. That's how the predictive analytics of this system works. And I hope this makes sense to all of you. It might take a couple of times before you can figure it out, but I will promise you that once you practice with this and use it on a couple of listing presentations, you can see why it is so powerful, and it completely disarms any other agent who would walk in and throw a CMA down in front of somebody that is something that they put together themselves, because there's just total confusion when the agent is not looking at raw MLS data, and that's what we're looking at here. Okay, there's one more feature of the system that I want to show you, and it is this. And this is so cool because this is really where the rubber hits the road with the seller. And we call this the absorption rate positioning worksheet. The system goes in and automatically fills out parts of this worksheet for us in advance based on the data, okay? So what we have to figure out is, what do we need to do? How does our house rate position-wise versus all of these other houses that are on the market right now? And how are we going to get it sold? Well, we know we've got a tough row to hoe, because the simple reason that the system is predicting 0 sales, new sales in the next 90 days. So here is what we have to look at. We're going to take an inventory with the seller of the five things here, that how the property relates to the other properties that are active, how it looks to a buyer who's looking at all the properties. And we'll talk about location first. So an advantage here might be an end cap with a better, easier access, something like that. So we would rate that. Are we the best out of those 5 other ones? And the rating here goes, hey, are we number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, or number 6 out of all the houses that'll be on the market? How about price? Is our price competitive? It's got to be price competitive. We need to get a real high rating on this in order to make it out of this deal, okay? How about the size and the house, the value of the lot? Are we selling a popular size in here? Is it a floor plan that is a popular floor plan? How does it rate with the others? The next is features and amenities. Maybe it has that side yard. How about this? Maybe it's got some things in there that the seller added later. And I'm not talking about, complete upgrades, but, maybe there's some additional things that this got. Maybe it's right across from the pool. Boy, wouldn't that be nice to have one right across from the pool? That would be a high rating. And lastly is condition. These townhouses were built in 2007. And the reason why there's a lot of price discrepancy here is many of these townhomes were not redone or updated, and a few were. So that's why you see a big difference in the condition of these townhouses. All right, so now the step 8 here, and this is the rubber. You hear it? That's the rubber hitting the road right there. Look at this. The system is telling us that if we want to sell our house within 30 days, and we know this is probably going to be really difficult, but we've got to be better than every other house on the market right now. We've got to be in the #1 position. Okay, Mr. Seller, that means that price, condition, location, everything that we just talked about, we got to rate #1 in there, or we're probably going to have a really tough time getting this thing sold in 30 days. Now, if we want a 50-50 chance, even just a 50-50 chance of getting it sold in 30 days, we still have to be the best. I mean, our odds are going to be tough here, very hard, because of the number of homes that have sold and the current absorption rate. That whole thing, going back to the absorption rate, this is going to be a real challenge. All right, so if we want a 33%, then the system is telling us that we have to be in at least the first or second position. So the purpose for this, again, sellers are responsible for determining the price that they want to list their house for. It's our job to educate them and give them the best tools to make that decision. If you're just throwing down a CMA in front of somebody, you can make that CMA say anything you want it to. And that's what I talked about buying a listing earlier. Agents do that. I'm sorry. I have to apologize on behalf of the industry, but agents do that. They will take an overpriced listing all the time and make it look like they can sell it for more, when in fact that poor seller is going to wind up taking a beating on that house because they have to reduce the price down the road. And we all know the story about price reductions. You don't cut once, you got to cut twice. You got to cut it enough to get it back down to market, but then you've got to cut it even deeper below the market to get agents interested in it again. These little token price cuts that people make are a waste, and they're really doing more harm than they are good. The idea here is to get the house priced correctly to begin with. You're a real estate agent. You're a marketing agent. Your job is to market this house and get the top of the market for it, but you've got to determine what the top of the market is and then price and position that house accordingly. Okay. All right, so I wish this was live, so that I could take questions at this point. But what I will do is, if you'll put some comments down in the live. I'm sorry. What do you call those things? Put some comments down below. How about that? And hey, and show me some love if you thought it was good today. If this was helpful, give me some likes. But if you have questions, put them down in the comments below, and I promise you I'll endeavor to get to every one of your comments and questions down there. I would be super excited to help you with this. This is standard procedure for our team. When we go out on listing appointments, we do this, and absolutely, I mean, you can ask our folks, man, it makes a huge difference when you're going out to compete on a listing appointment, when you've got this kind of a tool versus walking in with an old CMA that every other agent is still taught. Unbelievable that they can't get them off of CMAs and onto better. We have the technology, folks. We have the technology, and you're looking at it right here. Okay, so you guys, if you have any questions about that, put it in here. I'd love to chat with you. Also, once again, our group is covering the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We are about to start a massive lead generation campaign all over DFW, and I would be excited to talk with you if you feel like that you've got what it takes to be part of one of the top teams in the area here in the country, and would benefit from some help from an old guy like me who's been around for a long time, been coaching agents professionally for the last 12 years. I would love to talk with you and see if we can partner to help create some great things, generational wealth, and things that we can talk about on the phone. If you're interested in that, just go to cliffreeman.com, www.cliffreeman.com, Freeman, CLIFFFREEMAN.com. And I'd love to hear from you. So I want to wish you guys again, if I can find it. Let's see, where's my 4th of July flag? Do I have it? Well, let's see, I might be able to pull it up here, but I want to wish everybody just the best 4th of July. And we've all got so much to be thankful for in this country. There it is. And fly your flag, shoot your fireworks off. Just don't shoot them at your neighbor's house. God bless everybody. And tune back in next week, same time, same station. We'll be right back with Cliff Notes from the studio. Much love from Prosper, Texas, and we'll see everybody on the next one. You guys take care and have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.